Hello everybody. Here we are today breaking down the synastry between Johnny Depp and Amber Heard. Okay, and I'm sorry for the big delay on this video. I had a very busy week, and I am a healer, energy worker, metaphysical and intuitive consultant, right? And every now and then all of my clients go crazy all at the same time. This meaning that everybody needs help all at the same time. And this week I had clients that were dealing with real estate transactions and business stuff, and that needed a lot of input in real time on offers and buyers, etc., which is very interesting and exciting, but takes up time and attention. All right, however, it's the weekend now, so I have time to go over this and to catch up with this case study that we're doing on Johnny Depp and Amber Heard. One of the reasons which this is interesting is because it is not very often that we get to sorry, I was just looking at something. That it's not very often that we actually get to know so much of what is going on with people behind the scenes in their relationships, right? And so, because there's so much material that has come out through the court proceedings, but also in terms of all the recordings that we've heard, we literally know a lot about these two people, and we know a lot about some of the dynamics that were going on in their relationship. We know a lot about their childhoods, etc., etc. So they're very good. They're very good material for looking at astrology, doing case studies in psychology, etc., etc. Okay, so in today's video, we're going to look at the synastry between these two. And synastry is a fancy word for astrological comparison between the planets, houses, and angles of and points of two people. Okay, and the way in which we do synastry is by comparing the two people's astrological charts and all of the angles between the planets of the two people. And so to do that, we draw up some bi-wheels. These are called bi-wheels, okay? Where, for example, here in the first wheel, we put Johnny Depp's chart, and then on the outside, let me plug in my mouse here so I can actually show you, okay? Okay, so here we have Johnny Depp's chart, and here we have Amber Heard's chart, okay? And then we flip it around and we put Amber's chart in the middle and Johnny's on the outside. So we look at the comparison between the two charts both ways. First, looking at it from the point of view of Johnny, with Johnny in the middle, and then from the point of view of Amber, with Amber in the middle, okay? And then we also draw up with the computer usually. I used to do these by hand a long time ago, but computer is much better. It's easier, quicker. Okay, and if we look at things with the computer, we will see that we compare all of the planets and important points and angles of one person. Johnny Depp here is at the top, and with all of the same planets and points of the other person, okay? Now, this is just a piece of the synastry grid. If you're putting in a lot of things, including asteroids, vertex, and various other points, hypothetical planets, you can get some pretty huge synastry grids, but they wouldn't fit on this graphic that I was making, so this is what you get to see, but know that you can have very big grids. These are just, I'm showing here just the most important planets, okay? So when you're looking at a love relationship synastry, because you can do synastry even between business colleagues, for example, in which case you wouldn't be interested in their sexual exchange, right? Okay. So you can do synastry grids between mother and daughter. You can do synastry between employer and employee. You can do synastry grids between business partners, for example, if you want to look at that kind of stuff. But when you're looking at the synastry of a love relationship, personal planets will be very important, and the outer planets will also be important as well. And so the sun in a personal relationship will be each person's identity, the moon, their emotional nature, how the moon interacts. The Mercury is about their mental rapport, Venus is about their love exchange, Mars is about their sexual exchange, but also how they deal with conflict and how they deal with their drive and energy inside the relationship. Jupiter often is areas of expansion, but it can also magnify things that you don't want magnified. Saturn is areas of restrictions, but also areas of commitment and karma. Uranus is where things get shaken up and broken up, but also it can be places where it's hard to have commitment, okay, because the Uranus is a very volatile, not stable kind of energy. Neptune is spirit, where each person spiritualizes the other or where they deceive them, okay, it can go both ways. And Pluto is often shows power dynamics in the relationship, and it can also show issues of control and abuse, but it can also show where we empower others. So it's about power, positive and negative, okay? All the planets always have a shadow side, so you can have the positives and negatives. Some planets do shadow better than others, okay? So you will find the negatives more often. The nodal axis, it shows karmic contact between the people, in Chiron is about the healing energies that they exchange, okay? Or where they trigger each other's wounding as well. So if we go back to the first image in which we were looking at Johnny as chart in the middle and Amber on as the second chart on the outside, we already can see, just by eyeballing this chart, we can see that there are a lot of connections. For example, here we have Venus, Mercury, Venus, Black Moon, Lilith connection, this cluster. Then we have a Sun, North Node, IC, MC connection in this cluster. We have a Jupiter-Mercury connection here, a Chiron, Jupiter-Vesta connection here. Then we have Amber Heard's Lilith falls into Johnny Depp's 7th house, her Eros on his descendant. And then we have a Mars in Capricorn conjunct the Moon in Capricorn here. And then we have Pluto conjuncting the IC. Her South Node is also here, so there's South Node IC connections as well. And this Pluto also connects to Psyche, the asteroid, and to the Black Moon Lilith in Johnny Depp's chart, okay. And we also have a Pallas North Node connection and a Sun, Chiron with a opposition to Uranus here, okay. So these are just things that you can see just by taking 2 seconds to eyeball the chart. You can see, okay, so a lot going on between these two people, okay. This is, there's a lot of connections here, okay? And sometimes you will look at people's charts and there's not a lot of connections. You know, everything is kind of off phase. But with these guys, for good or ill, the connection is very strong, okay? So if we go to the next slide, we are going to just get into the details here a little bit more, okay? So I put a circle around the things that we're looking at, and here we have Johnny Depp's midheaven that is connected to Amber's North Node, Sun, and IC. Now, the IC we can take with a pinch of salt because I chose the ascendant intuitively, psychically, for reasons that may even transcend accuracy. Sometimes my guides give me ascendants for people that highlight dynamics, but they may not actually be their ascendant, but somehow it works, right? So we're using intuitive astrology here, okay, rather than super. I'm kind of like that anyway. I use my intuition more than I use technique, both in the astrology and in the tarot, okay? So here, one of the things that is interesting is that Amber Heard's sun shines light onto Johnny Depp's midheaven. And the midheaven is the public persona that we show to the world through our career, our vocation, our work, okay, and so on. So there are people that do not have a huge public aspect to their career. They will still have a midheaven because that is still their highest point in the chart, and it still shows you kind of like is their vocational point, their career point. But if you do have a public persona, the persona that you are will be the persona of your midheaven, which in his case is a Taurian persona, okay? Now, Amber is shining her sun right on top of it, meaning that when Amber comes into the picture, she brings Johnny Depp out into the public, okay? Now, I'm sure that at the beginning, this was kind of benign, that they were kind of like a power couple of some kind, right, where people would see them, talk about them. But her sun is opposite Pluto. So she would bring a Plutonian vibe to that, right? And so she's bringing him out into the public. Now, everybody knows about Johnny Depp's private life, which is as I see over here. You see there's a lot of exchange here between the private and the public because this axis is involved, okay? And this will basically show that there's something about, and there's a north node in here, so this is karma, okay? This is soul direction. The soul wants this. The soul wants this pulling out into the public arena, all of this private stuff, okay? And she is shining light onto this, meaning that she's giving a lot of energy to his public persona, okay? Now, this Sun, North Node, Pluto, South Node thing is also Amber's power dynamics with the men, and in fact she's dated a lot of very powerful men, and that's because she has this Sun-Pluto opposition, okay? And however, this is also her power dynamics with her father. And so Johnny's public persona here is a trigger to her father power issues, okay? So I don't know anything about her father. I don't think he was famous or powerful in some ways, but maybe she was to her as a child, because I know that he was abusive in some way, and so maybe it was all powerful to her, but there's a power dynamic here with men that she is trying to heal. And you know, we all repeat our patterns of our childhood, right? So first of all, we attract to ourselves exactly what we don't need, right? So that we then try to heal it, okay? And so she has a power imbalance of her own, because this is on her North Node, South Node axis, meaning that she's bringing a power imbalance out from past lives also. That is her own issue, but she also encountered it in childhood, and now she's bringing it into her relationships, and she definitely brought it into her relationship with Johnny. And Johnny's public persona, his fame, triggered her father issues, okay? And in fact, we heard some recordings in which she was quite vocal about the fact that you know, there was some kind of jealousy almost that she had towards his career, okay, and the fact that everybody out there loves him and thinks he's the best, right, and so on. And okay, so you can see all of that stuff there. Now, also, on the other hand, her Pluto is triggering his mother issues and his childhood issues, because it's conjunct his IC, which is the physical but also psychological roots of a person in the chart, okay? It's connected to the asteroid Psyche, okay, which literally, sometimes with asteroids you can just go with the name. There's a whole mythology behind all of these names, but sometimes literally Pluto is conjunct Psyche. Her Pluto is triggering the Psyche of him, okay? The fourth house is, which is this one, is also the mother, and so Pluto is falling into his mother house, triggering mother issues. And also another thing that we know is that a lot of the dramatic exchanges between these two people happened behind closed doors in his residences, and this is fourth house. Fourth house is homes, and he had several of them, okay? And in each home that he had in which they spent time, they would have Pluto experiences, okay? Pluto meaning intensity, abuse, you know, deep shadow, transformational stuff, you know, that on the 3D level is often like power, control, abuse kind of issues, okay? And that these would happen in his home. So that is exactly right, because the Pluto falls there, okay? All right. So a lot, just by looking at these two aspects, you can already see some of their dynamics. You can see, you know, that the issues that she had with his public persona, how literally just by her sun position, she was dragging him out into the public, that there's a karmic connection, that he triggered her childhood father stuff and she triggered his childhood mother stuff, and so on, okay? And by the way, this is very common in relationships, especially in this incarnation. So many of us are wrapping up old stories because this is an end of timeline set of incarnations, and so people are working on, you know, some of their deepest and most difficult issues, and this is once again one of the reasons for which this trial has captivated people, because so many people have been going through these kind of relationships. It's not just these two, okay? Okay, so now moving on to this next aspect, we have the Sun opposite Uranus, and with a, you can see it here, Sun, Uranus, with a wide conjunction to Chiron, okay? Now, this would show that Johnny Depp would experience Amber as rattling, and as, you know, from a higher perspective, she shakes things up for him. He may have been quietly going along, being his Sun in Gemini self, and then she comes along and it's like jolts of electricity. Now, initially, this can be experienced as kind of exciting and stuff happening and, you know, lots of energy and even a sparkly attraction, right? But over time, it can become very disruptive and kind of electric connection. So there's always disruption, there's always kind of chaos and upheaval, right? And this over time can become a little difficult as an aspect, okay? Now, her Chiron is making a very wide conjunction to his Sun, so there is some healing that she's bringing to him, but at the same time, she's also bringing this very kind of like jarring, you know, my intuition with this is almost like there's no peace, you know, like you're trying to get some peace and there's this like jolts of electricity going along and, you know, maybe arguments and so on that kind of make things disruptive, okay? But then we have this repeated here where the Mars is almost in an exact conjunction with the Moon. They're really close. Mars in Capricorn. Mars in Capricorn is overstimulating this Moon, and Mars in Capricorn, because it's in an Earth sign, it's anger, but it can, and conflict, but it can actually become physical. Okay, so his emotional nature is going to experience this aggression kind of coming towards him. And also the thing that is important to notice here is that this Moon that he has is already in a natal square with this Jupiter in Aries here, okay, which is one of the signatures of the kind of experience that he had with his mom when he was a kid, which was occasional excesses in emotional outbursts of the fire kind. So Aries, which is a fire sign, but it's also a Mars sign, so there can be anger outbursts, excessive like anger, temper. It's not necessarily manipulative or anything, but it's just a lot of volatile emotions, okay, coming at him. And her Mars is plugging right into that square. And also her Mercury, which is in Aries, very wide conjunction to the Jupiter, but it's in the same sign as this Jupiter. So this square is really, his natal moon, Jupiter square, is really triggered by both of these planets, and this one is right in there, okay? So with Mars moon, sometimes you can have a lot of passion, a kind of steamy, and again, especially at the beginning, like there's some aspects that at the beginning they're kind of okay, and then after a while it's like, oh my god, enough, you know. And when you have Mars on the moon is constantly under this Mars energy, okay. And very often it can start as a very steamy, even sexual kind of like energy, but then over time it can become volatile and conflictual. Okay, so you can see both people trigger each other's parental wounds, okay? And then here, there's more of that because you have, this is the Venus, Mercury, Venus cluster, okay? At the beginning, Venus, great, lots of love. The Venuses are liking each other. The Venus likes Mercury, her Venus likes his Mercury, so she would have appreciated his words and ability to write and speak and kind of tendency towards poetry. So there's a mind-heart connection here, okay? So trine to the moon, so this moon would have been very happy about that. This is Amber's moon. Emotionally, she would have been felt nurtured by that. However, here we have this Saturn, okay, square both of these Venuses. And Johnny Depp has this Venus natally, Venus Saturn. So he's kind of used to it. Well, instead, Amber is getting a new experience here with this Saturn Venus. Saturn Venus can make people feel insecure about being loved. This would explain some of Johnny Depp's jealousy, for example. It would give somebody a feeling that they have to work hard for love and they're not just loved and that's it. You know, there's some insecurity about feeling loved. They often didn't feel very loved during childhood, or there was difficulties around that, okay? It's also a karmic aspect around the Venus principle. And so he would feel that, but so would she would feel that. And so we have heard from the recordings that she very much disliked when he left. It made her feel, it triggered her abandonment issues, right? And so some of this Saturn to the Venus could also be, you know, part of that, part of why she was experiencing that, okay? And here, I think I was playing around with some midpoints, kind of take this one with a pinch of salt, but basically these two planets together oppose this Pluto, and the Pluto is pulled into that Mars, Uranus. So regardless of what these planets are, there's a trigger here to the Mars Uranus, which is his explosive nature, intense nature, etc. So these two literally came together to spark each other off, okay? And also her Jupiter is right on top of his Chiron. Chiron can be a very healing thing, but is also where we hold a primary wound that cannot be healed, okay? It's the wound that never heals. It usually shows an area of the chart where there's something that is hard to work out and it kind of just stays there, okay? And her Jupiter is right on top of that. And when I was saying, I think I was saying earlier that sometimes Jupiter is positive generally, but sometimes it magnifies things that you don't want magnified because it's a planet of expansion. And so here we have Jupiter the expander on his primary non-healable wound. And I would say that this is a trigger, okay? Rather than it being a positive thing, it's a trigger. This Chiron is square his sun. This is father issues right there, or father line issues, ancestral stuff. So, you know, he's basically, she comes in with this Jupiter and sets it off, Okay, again. Okay, also just on the positives before we move on from him, Eros on the descendant. Let's go back to the first chart here. Eros on the descendant. This is he would perceive her as a very sexually attractive, very attractive marriage partner. Okay, and it's on the marriage cusp. He would be very attracted to her with this there. Okay. Lilith in the second house, so she brings Lilith energy to the marriage. Okay, Lilith can be good and bad, like all planets in astrology. In a very healed individual, Lilith shows a very independent, shows independence. You know what I mean? And it's almost like a positive, a feminist type energy. Okay, the negative side of Lilith can be literally the woman scorned. Okay. Can be very vengeful, dark feminine as well. And so she brings Lilith energy to his 7th house of marriage. Pallas is conjunct his north node. Pallas is the strategic warrior. Pallas was a goddess that was born out of the head of Zeus, and she was born fully clothed in armor, but the mythology around her was that she was a strategist of war, okay? And she is conjunct Johnny Depp's North Node, which means that he, by soul contract, needed to experience that. In her case, the Pallas seems to have been very good at strategizing his demise, okay? And he needed to confront that particular kind of strategic dark feminine. Pallas is not always dark, by the way. In fact, it's usually light, but it depends. Every person embodies things in different ways. Yeah, the planets have polarities. The planets, asteroids, everything has polarity, and depending on what the dynamics are and what the person are and what is and what consciousness they bring forward, they will bring these different energies to the fore, okay, in different ways. So not everybody's Pallas is the same, okay? Right, so this is Amber's. We've covered pretty much everything, but looking at it from the point of view of Amber, with the amber in the middle, let's see if there's other stuff that gets highlighted. Okay. And what gets highlighted is that, well, he, in the Moon-Mars conjunction, he experiences her Mars. She experiences his Moon. She experiences his emotions, but she also experiences his nurturing. So she is going to experience Johnny Depp's nurturing more than he experiences hers, okay? And this is not a judgment, because I don't know if you've noticed that sometimes you will be in a relationship and you are the dominant person, and then it's the same you, but you're in a relationship with somebody else and you become like the person that gets taken care of, and the partner bakes you cookies. Do you know what I mean? And this is why, okay? Like in one relationship, somebody's moon may be all over you, and in another relationship, your Mars is all on top of them. Do you know what I mean? And so people are multifaceted, and different people pull out different aspects of themselves. It's something that when I was a kid used to drive me insane, because I was like, why can't I be the same person with every single one of my friends? And I actually remember having that feeling when I was like 7 or 8 years old. I was like, I want to be the same person with everybody. Why am I all bubbly with this person and depressing with this other one? Right. And actually, later in life, I discovered the psychology of parts and subpersonalities, and and then astrology, which is very linked to that, and Jungian stuff, and so on. And you start to understand that we really are. Self is very multifaceted, and it interacts with its environment that pulls out different aspects of the self. So, in this relationship, Amber is the aggressor, and Johnny Depp's moon is on the Mars, and which is much more nurturing influence. Same here, the Chiron is on the Jupiter. The Chiron is nurturing, healing the Jupiter of Amber Heard, okay, which in turn is trining this Pluto. So on some level he was trying to help her, okay. Now here we've already talked about this and how his midheaven triggers her stuff, okay, and this private public axis, and this is her version of that. It triggers hers as well in the same way, the private and the public, okay. Her private self is pulled into the public and everybody can see her Pluto and dark side. And in some ways, from a karmic perspective, her Pluto needed to be pulled into the public arena so that it could be seen, so that she could see it, because she is not super conscious. She has to see it. It's almost like she has to see it projected out in order to be able to see it. And then it gives her soul an opportunity to heal, which she may or may not take, okay? And here we see Johnny Depp's North Node falling into her 7th house, which, you know, brings them together in marriage. And this is with the ascendant, the random one that I chose, okay, through my intuitive process. And you can listen to the video on that with regards to her chart. Okay, so that's enough on the Synastry. Now we're going to look at the midpoint composite chart between them. Now this is the chart of the relationship itself. What you do is you get the data of one person, the data of the other, you create the chart, a chart for each, and then you find the midpoint between each one of their points and planets, and you try that. With that you create a new chart, which is the chart of the relationship. Okay, this is called midpoint composite chart. Okay, and this tells you the nature of the relationship itself. When they come together, they create a unit, they create what we call a couple. And this is the chart for the couple, not for each one individually, but for the energetic entity that they create when they're together. Okay, and right here you have Uranus on the ascendant. Okay, so this creates instability right off the bat. This is a volatile, unstable, on-off, you know, very kind of like electric and choppy relationship. Okay, right, you can see it right there. Mars in the 1st house, anger, straight up right there. Okay, it's very sexual at the beginning. It's in Scorpio 2, underhanded. Okay, square the Chiron. Okay, so issues to the fore. It hits into their vulnerabilities. The relationship is there to heal their stuff, okay? Chiron, Mercury, you know, this can be, you know, abuse, mental, it can be healing words, and it can be, they can heal each other and they can hurt each other with words with this, okay? Sun, Venus, it's kind of interesting. You see the strong Venus. First of all, they will have material wealth together because this Sun, Venus is in Taurus, okay? It also shows that there's a love connection. There's definitely was love between these two people before things got too crazy, okay? North Node, South Node with Neptune on the South Node. South Node, a pattern of lying and deception here from past lives. These guys have a pattern of lying and deception, okay? There can also be a pattern of fame, because Neptune can also be glamour and fame. So they may have been well known and famous in other lifetimes too, but too seduced by that glamour, right? And here, Pluto, Saturn, karma, power issues, okay? Now, commitment. There's commitment. They're good at creating money. Commitment, I mean, they did get married, okay? And Pluto, Jupiter, another one of those things that you don't want Jupiter to magnify is the Plutonian aspect of this relationship, okay? Plutonian stuff going on in secret, okay? The 12th house is behind closed doors in secret, Plutonian stuff happening, okay? Or power dynamics that are hard to pin down, but they're there. Pallas on the midheaven. They will be known for their warrior. the warriorness will make them well known. Okay, so they will be more known for their fights than for their movies. Okay. Eros at the bottom of the chart, definitely a lot of attraction here, especially at the beginning. Okay. I'm sure there's a lot of other stuff, but these are the things that kind of jump out. Oh, by the way, with Juno here, you would also expect these people to get married. Juno pulls marriage into the conversation. There's a 7th house. These two people definitely were supposed to do marriage, even if the marriage is not easy. Okay. All right, so I think this is it. Oh yeah, I had actually made the little graphics for those, but then I ended up talking about them without. Sorry about that. All right, so this is about it on the composite and synastry between these two. I hope this was interesting. Make sure to like and subscribe if you're interested in more stuff. And the next piece, there's a couple of things extra that I want to do. I don't want to go on about these two forever, but there's a couple of other things that I want to look at if I have time. And one of them was the astrology between both of them and Camille, the lawyer. Okay, and especially Camille and Amber, because I do have the data for Camille, and I think it would be interesting to see an example of chart comparison synastry that is not, so I can show you, look at this dynamic and how it's not a love relationship, and you can still see all of the stuff in the chart, okay? And the other thing that I wanted to do is a very short video on the past lives, because I did past life research on these two and there was some interesting stuff that emerged. And so yes, I wanted to talk about that. And so these are the next two videos coming up, one on the past lives, which may be the very next one, and then one about the astrology between these two and Camille, okay? And especially Amber. If I don't have time, I'll do just Amber and Camille. And that would be that. So I hope you enjoyed that, and yeah, that would be it for right now, okay? Thank you for watching, and I hope you have a great week.